Hey guys, welcome
Hey
back to
guys.
the Gamechangers podcast. This is our mentor series, episode 4, with Zuby. Zuby is an artist from the United Kingdom, and it's really an honor to have you on. Zuby's been a part of Joe Rogan's podcast. He has set the deadlift record in the UK, which is something we'll talk about later as a woman. And he's an independent artist right now, raising money for his new album coming out, Word of Zuby. How you doing, man?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, man. How are you?
Great, great. Is there anything we missed that you would like to add to the introduction?
Well, I'm Zuby, independent rapper, author, podcast host, entrepreneur, and I'm known for a lot of different things. So
All rounder.
but those are the big ones.
Right. So I mean, cutting right to the chase, I know with the entire pandemic, I'm curious to know. Of course, you do all those things, and I'm going to assume that music is your main thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has been for the last 15 years. As over the last 2 years, I've sort of added quite a few additional strings to my bow. So I guess what you mean by the biggest thing. I mean, in terms of without the music, all the rest of the stuff wouldn't exist. So music is still my number one love, and it's still the kind of, how would I say, it's like the backbone of everything else that I do.
Right.
That's your bread and butter.
Yeah, it is. It is. The other things are, in terms of like income and revenue, then I'll be real, like the music isn't even the biggest part anymore. There's so much other stuff that's become attached to it. But of course, I got a new album coming out in a couple of months. So it's been 2 years since I released an album, and my audience is more than 10x since the last one. So I'm looking to shift stuff a lot more back towards the music this year and introduce a whole bunch of people who now know me for other things. Sorry, I've just got to grab the door, guys. 1 sec.
No worries.
No problem.
Yeah. So I guess my question I was leading to was, I guess being an artist right now, how has it been with the entire pandemic, and how have you might have, I guess, changed your style of how you're connecting with your audience?
Honestly, it's just having to rely on the internet totally. I do have a very large social media presence and reach as it is with, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. I mean, I've got over 600,000 followers in total across the various platforms. So it's really just been doubling down on all of the online stuff. So my podcasting, my books, my general social media promotion, my coaching services. I coach people as well on various things. So all of that has just been amped up. And then towards the end of last year, I went out to Romania for a couple months. I wrote my whole new album when I was out in Romania. I've come back, recorded that in January, and it's all mixed and mastered now. It's just gearing up this Kickstarter. That's midway through as we record this. And that'll be dropping in a couple of months, hopefully by the time that things are starting to reopen and start to come back to normal in most places, or at least something approaching it. So I've really just taken this opportunity to honestly just to double down on everything else that I do and grow my audience. I mean, in the past year, I've probably gained another 200,000 or so followers across the board. So I haven't been slacking at all. It's been a little less fun not being able to do some of the in-person stuff, not being able to do any gigs or concerts, not being able to do any meetups, not being able to do any public speaking events or travel. I mean, I was supposed to go to the States 3 times last year, had to cancel all 3 trips. So there have been restrictions and limitations, but I'm someone who's always going to progress regardless. Like I can't be stopped. I won't be stopped. I'm always going to move forward and control the things that I can, despite the fact that there's things out there, of course, that I can't.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so it seems like your Kickstarter for your next album, it really surpassed the goals that you set for it, and it hit 50,000 pounds. And it seems like your project is coming really fast. I think this May, it said.
Yeah, it's going to come out. So for everyone who pre-orders the album via Kickstarter, they will get the early digital download in May. And then the more general, wider release is looking to be in June or July, depending on a couple details, but definitely May for the people who have pre-ordered it. Then they'll get the downloads. Physical products will be going out in June. Some of the vinyl probably won't get to people until August. It's going to be my very first album I'm also releasing on vinyl. So I'm doing a small run of a few hundred purple double disc 12-inch vinyl. Each one's going to be individually hand signed by myself. So I'm making sure that those are going to be worth a lot of money in the future for anyone who invests in one.
Definitely. And, I guess to further expand on that, I know you were trying to raise this money, and a lot of some of the people are be like, okay, well, why doesn't he make music out, just like any other artist and, try to hustle that way? Why is he asking people for money? But I do think it's important to point out that it's, I guess one of the main reasons is because you work as an independent artist, which is important to highlight in this conversation. And being an independent artist, I was looking more into it. Right. And I'm interested to learn about, what's the difference between being an independent and having a label, like, I guess, from your experience.
Yeah. I mean, well, so when I say I'm independent, I mean, I'm 100% independent. Like, it's just me, right? From the business side to the creative side, I do virtually everything. I mean, what I don't do is some of the musical aspects, like producing the beats and doing the actual mixing and mastering, the technical aspects of that, I don't do. But in terms of the marketing, the promotion, financing everything, sorting out my music videos, websites, design, like I do everything. And I have done since I started. So this is going to be my 9th music release, right? I mean, I put out my first thing in 2006, 15 years ago. So I've been independent all the way through that. My whole career has just been built off of my own grind and love from my fans and my supporters, from starting out just selling my CDs on the street to eventually opening up pop-up shops in various shopping malls around the UK, to what I'm doing now with things shifting more online. It's all just been off my own back. Same with my book, same with my podcast, everything. Like, I do everything. So the key difference between an artist like myself and someone who's signed to a label is doing it by yourself versus having a team. But then also losing large degrees of autonomy, both in terms of business, especially, and finances, but in some cases also creativity as well. So I don't answer to anybody. I don't have to answer to anybody except my fans, my supporters, people who actually like me and support what I do. Those are the people I answer to. Those are the people I care about. Those are the people I want to please. Anybody else, there's nobody in the music industry, like no one's got anything on me, right? Like, I've built myself up without them. So if someone wants to help me, I'm not going to turn down help if someone genuinely wants to help me with something. But, over the last 15 years, I've really carved out my own lane, built my own audience, done it all organically. And if you do it yourself and you build it yourself, then it's a lot harder for people to knock it down, and people can't take it from you. If someone just gives you something, or gives you a handout, then they can just as easily take it from you, right? It's like being employed versus being self-employed. Right? If you're employed, sure, it can be more stable. It can feel more secure. You've got more colleagues, you've got a team, you've got, people around you, et cetera. But, the situation that's just happened in the past year could happen, or, your company gets acquired or something, or your performance falls below a certain level, and your boss can just be like, hey, Harsh, I'm sorry, but, we got to let you go. Right. And that can happen, right? I can't be fired. Like, there's no, I'm my boss. Sometimes I joke when people like get angry at me online. I'm like, yeah, like send it to my manager, or like, here's the email to my boss, So it's a beautiful position to be in, and it's really, really been a tough grind. But I've always believed from the very beginning when I started that in the long run, this is the right way to go, and it's going to pay off well. And there's also no ceiling, there's no ceiling with it. You've just got total freedom to do what you want to do, even outside music. I've expanded to things outside music over the past couple of years. Again, if I were with a label or something, they may say, hey, like, you've got to do it this way, or you have to do it that way, or we don't like this song, or we don't like that tweet you put out there. You need to delete, like, get lost, man. I'm a grown man. Maybe it's my personality. I don't like answering to people. I'm very, very independent minded. I really value my own autonomy and just having that flexibility and freedom to do the things I want. And I do have a business brain, and I do have a sales brain. So a lot of artists are purely creative and they don't understand the business side of things, but I'm blessed to be someone who understands both. So I don't need someone to sort of manage that other aspect for me. With me, it's just a matter of managing my schedule, my timing, thinking creatively, listening to my audience, and just having fun with it as well, having fun with it. And that's ultimately the key, because if you're not having fun with it, then what's the point of being a creative? What's the point of being an entrepreneur if you're not even having fun with it?
Definitely.
Yeah. And it goes to show, like, I hear that the music industry is like one of the most toxic industries in the sense, man. Like, the labels are like, it's like they're like corrupt or something. I hear like they kind of screw artists a lot, and if artists don't perform, they can be $1 million in debt. Like,
this has been going on for decades, by the way, man. For decades and decades. We're going back to like the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, every decade. I mean, on average, I mean, you know, people don't buy CDs as much as they used to now, but whether you're talking about CDs or you're even talking about downloads, etc., even if someone buys an album, I mean, if someone buys an album for £10 or $10, then typically the artist is seeing like 10% of that. Assuming they've recouped. If they haven't recouped, they're seeing none of it. If they have recouped their advance and their budget, then literally they're getting, you know, £1. So you pay £10 for a CD. The artist gets £1. I mean, imagine that's a band, right? Or imagine that's a group, right? They then split that across 4 people. And that's how you get situations where you've had artists or bands sell literally millions of records, and they leave with like the album sells 2 million copies, and their profit is like 50 grand or like 10 grand off of, you know, the label has made millions. And that's just how the
problem that highlights. I think like when I hear about that and not having any experience in the music industry whatsoever, but like just hearing about it, that if someone wants to make their own money, like it's about like, let's say if you want to be an entrepreneur, right? It's kind of like that in a way, but it seems like the amount of costs that go into being an independent artist are just really, really high. So I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Because, you know, it seems like it's a lot more of a difficult path doing your own thing as an independent artist compared to going with a label. But yeah, but then they kind of abuse you. So it's like, what's the path? If there's an artist, if there's music artists you could speak to and you can tell them like if you should go independent or with a label, what would you say?
Oh, man, I'm straight up. I'm an independent warrior, right? Unless your goal is to be the next Justin Bieber or Rihanna or I don't know, some Beyonce, then what the heck do you need a label for? You don't need one. By the time you need to build up your stuff independently. I mean, by the time labels are even hollering at you, it's going to be at the stage where you probably just don't need them anymore, right? Yeah. And that's the best position to be in. It's no different to having a startup, right? And trying to maintain equity, right? You don't want to have an idea and some investor comes along and you're like, okay, and they're like, okay, I want 90% of your company. I'll give you 10%, but I'll give you your 100 grand in funding, right? That'd be a terrible deal, right? That company goes on, becomes a $100 million billion company, and you as the founder are now getting a 10% cut. And the person who gave you 100 grand at the start is
you just describe Shark Tank, right? You just describe Shark Tank.
Literally, right? It's Shark Tank, or in the UK we have Dragon's Den, right? We know that's an insane deal, but that's literally what record deals are like. Why do you think artists tour so much? Why do they do so many endorsement deals and release their own perfumes and alcohol brands and clothing lines, et cetera? Because that's how they actually make money. And this has been the case for decades. So with a traditional model, I mean, for an artist to seriously make money off music sales themselves, then they need to be selling like insane numbers. And as we know, that's just it's not feasible anymore. We know gone are the days of people going platinum directly off sales, let alone going diamond like they used to just a decade or two ago. So, you know, the game has really changed. But yeah, to any independent artist, look, the lifeblood of any artist is fans. Whether you are signed, unsigned, independent, whatever terminology, if you have fans and supporters who are willing to buy your stuff and support you, you're golden. That's all it comes down to, right? I've got a bigger, more engaged fan base than plenty of artists who are signed, right? So the fact they're signed is whatever. Like they've got nothing. They've got nothing on me, right? There's independent artists who are way bigger than I am, right? So that is when you are winning, because it's all about fans. Everything's about fans. Who cares if you're signed? If people don't want to come to your concerts or buy your music or buy your t-shirts or support your stuff in some financial, tangible way, then it doesn't matter. You can have all your pictures in these magazines, or you can, you know, have like this blog write about you, or this popular site review your music or whatever. But if people don't care, people don't care. So it doesn't matter. Fans are the lifeblood of every artist. So the focus always beyond the music, the focus has to be on fans at all times. And I've applied that for the last 15 years. I apply it to everything I do. It's all about the people. It's all about my supporters. and you see this, right? So I launched my Kickstarter 2 weeks ago. 10 hours, over 10,000 pounds raised.
Right.
In 10 hours, right?
That's awesome.
Right.
That's
first
really
day.
good.
Exactly. First day. So that was over $15,000 in the first day. Probably, I think about $20,000 in the first day. Right. So that's a testament to, oh, wow. Okay. People like this guy, right? Like, you know, so not every artist is capable of, like a lot of signed artists can't do that. Right. That's kind of my point. But it's like, okay, I don't like to view myself as a brand because it feels really contrived, but the sort of Zuby brand, or just me as a person and everything I've put out there and the goodwill I've built up over time by giving, like giving to people, caring about people, then that over time, when you do actually have a request and you ask people for something, they're a lot more likely to do so, right? Because people want to support people they like. They want to support messages they believe in. They want to help people succeed who are trying to succeed if they feel some sort of emotional connection to them and they like their work, et cetera. But that takes a long time to build. It takes a long time to build. And there's no sort of, you know, you can't just throw money at something like that and build those connections. It's a very organic process, but it's a very rewarding one. And when you see the way that you're changing people's lives and how you're genuinely impacting people. I mean, I get messages every single day, at least double-digit messages every single day from people telling me that either through my music or something else that I do, that it's helped to improve their lives in some way in some way. So to me, that's what it's all about. You know, it's all about maximizing my own potential.
It's all about, you know, like at the end of the day, like everything that you're doing, it's all about contributing and like, you know, giving to other people's lives, whether it's, you know, you say you do coaching with your business, whether it's with your music, you want to give to other people, you're serving other people. And I think, you know, a lot of people underestimate the feeling and, you know, how amazing it feels to be able to sleep on that, you know, being able to give and getting so much love back from these people and telling you, you know, that you've changed your lives. It's one of the most amazing feelings that, you know, you can ever receive. But
most definitely, man. And honestly, that's my filter for pretty much anything I do. Right. You know, even me being on this podcast right now, right. The filter I run it through is like, okay, is this going to help me to have a positive impact on more people? Right. You know, your audience, whoever's listening to this right now, can I plant a little seed in their brain or give them a little bit of encouragement or inspiration or whatever to help them? If the answer is yes, awesome, cool. That fits in with my mission. Let's make it happen. Right. So that's how I view everything. It's literally how I view everything. That's my purpose in the world. And a lot of people don't get that. I think especially people who, you know, may consider themselves, you know, my detractors or opponents, who have all these misconceptions about me. They don't understand that everything is driven from a genuine desire to want to make the world a better place and help other people to become stronger, more self-reliant, better mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, everything, right? I want everybody to be better. I want everyone to strive towards reaching their capacity, right? I don't want people to just be there sitting depressed and lazy and fat and broke and tired and, you know, their life is lacking meaning and purpose. It's like, no, like get out there. Don't be a victim, be a victor, get out there, put in the work in the gym, chase after your dreams, hustle, grind, make connections. Don't just waste your time on social media. Use these tools to connect with people around the world and be inspired and keep doing that. And over the course of years, man, like you'll be a whole different person.
Definitely. And you know what, at the end of the day, you know, I guess people live by their dreams, right? Like if you don't have dreams, if you don't have a purpose, then what's the meaning of life? You're just existing at this point, you know? People live and die by their dreams. If their dreams come true, then that's what they're living for. If they don't, then they live with that. That's something that I always try to keep in the back of my mind, right? You know, without a dream, you just no point of existing, right? If you're not working towards anything, you're just taking up space.
If you don't have a dream, like you exist to watch ads on like TikTok and YouTube. You're just like brainlessly scrolling and watching ads and just producing revenue for a company.
But
you need the purpose.
Great message. And from there, I want to, you know, shift a little bit and talk about, now this is quite unorthodox, but you spent 20 years living in Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah.
And you seem like a very, I guess, you're from the UK, so you seem very westernized. So now I'm trying to understand, I guess, the entire I guess how your life's been, because you spend so much time there, and the culture you've I guess experienced there, and moving to the UK, how that's changed. So I'm interested.
Yeah, sure, man. So I was born in the UK. I was born in England, a little bit north of London. When I was a baby, I moved out to Saudi Arabia with my family. My dad's a doctor, and he got an opportunity to work out there. So we moved out there, family of 7, all living in Saudi Arabia. I went to kindergarten all the way up until 5th grade there. And then after 5th grade, at the age of 11, I went to the UK for boarding school, did really well in school, went to Oxford University, studied computer science, graduated, did music full-time for 1 year. And then I worked in the corporate world for 3 years as a management consultant. And then in 2011, I jumped out of that, and I've been self-employed for almost 10 years now. So that's like the very quick summary of the sort of life of Zuby. But yeah, Saudi Arabia was a really interesting place to grow up, man. It's sort of hard to describe because it's pretty different to what most people in the UK or the US might be used to. But where I lived was I grew up primarily in an expat community. So where I lived, it was very, very people from all over the world, very international, very diverse in terms of everything really. But it was a great place to grow up, and I've been heavily influenced by multiple different cultures. There are 4 pretty different cultures that I've been heavily exposed to. So British, of course. People hearing my accent right now will probably tell I don't really sound like an English guy. So I was in the American school system for all that time I was in Saudi Arabia. Right. Lots of my friends, my teachers, etc., were American. So I've got a lot of American influence. And then my family background is originally from Nigeria. So there's that. And then, of course, I grew up in the Middle East for 20 years. So I grew up in Saudi Arabia, which is, very, very, Islamic country, very different laws, different customs, different ways of doing things, whole different way of life. So yeah, I consider myself pretty well-rounded and having a pretty global perspective on quite a lot of things, which is why I think, in recent years, I've sort of made a name for myself, even with sort of socio-political commentary. And I think one reason why a lot of people are interested in my thoughts, both here in the UK and especially in the USA, is because I'm someone who comes at things from a different angle and from a more global perspective. And it tends to just give me a different take on a lot of things. So it's just how I naturally kind of grew up. So I guess I'm very blessed and fortunate in that regard. So yeah, that's that.
Great. Yeah, and we're from Canada. I'm from Edmonton. Harsh is in Toronto right now. And basically, I like how you said that you have a different perspective, because it seems like in like the mainstream media, it's extremely American centric, and it seems like they have a hard time seeing it from different point of views, and sometimes the British media is too, but not nearly as bad as like the American one. And you probably noticed that. So I think it's really good that you can get out there and contribute new ideas and perspectives, especially to Americans.
Thank you.
Because I think people can really value that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Well, I think it's just natural that people have, I think we all have defaults, right? So we've all had our own childhood and growing up and life experiences. And I think most people, that's their kind of default, right? That's their baseline. Even if it's 2 people in the same country, but in different areas or very different circumstances, et cetera, they tend to grow up, people tend to grow up surrounded by people who are like them to some degree, right? Like both geographically, but also just the type of people around them. So people tend to think, okay, that's the norm. That becomes their norm. That becomes their baseline. And then this is one of the values of traveling, right? Especially traveling internationally, is you get to see, you go to different countries, you go to different cities, you go to different places, and you can see the similarities, but you can also see the differences, right? It goes way beyond just trying different foods or hearing different languages, but it's like, oh, okay, all these different cultures, they have their similarities and their differences, and each person thinks that the way they do their stuff is normal, right? If you're from France and you grew up in Paris and you've lived in Paris your whole life, right? You that's your baseline, that's your default. And then, I don't know, you go to Los Angeles, or you go to South Africa, or you go to China, or you go to Japan, And it's like, oh, okay, they're doing the way they do things here is different, right? We notice these differences. You get that sort of culture shock, culture clash. So with me, you know, beyond having those influences from four different cultures, I've also traveled to, I think, 35 different countries so far. So, you know, I just like to be able to see things from different angles, and also to cherry pick what I like and kind of discard what I don't like from different ones. Because there's things that I think that the UK does great and doesn't do very well. There's things I think that are done really well in Saudi Arabia. People don't like it when I say that because they want to imagine that, you know, it's all bad and it's all terrible. But again, that's that sort of very Western perspective, very sort of judgmental. Right. But yeah, you know, there's things I really like that they do there. There's things that I don't like. So it's like, okay, cool. I like that. And so my own sort of worldview, and I'm not an idealist, but the way I kind of think of like, okay, this is the right balance a society should have, that's influenced by all of this travel and different places.
Right. That's very interesting because I think I agree. Like when I always want to encourage people to, if they want to grow themselves, grow your experiences, because once you go out there and you see what's happening in China, or you see how people are living in Japan or all these countries, you learn about people in general, and you learn about how other cultures work, and you're forced to think outside of your own constrained experiences and your own values that you've developed with the world that you've lived in. Right. So when you travel, like, it really, really does open your mind. It's really helped me a lot. Just, you know, a lot more self-awareness and also understanding how people work in general. Right. But yeah, going from there, I do want to move to another topic, which is, so you are currently holding the deadlift record for unofficially. So you identified as a woman for 3 minutes, and you broke the women's deadlift record in the UK. Tell us about that, because that got crazy monetization, and as crazy as it sounded, it happened. So
yeah, so this was going back a little bit over 2 years ago. So at the end of February 2019, I posted a 9-second video on my Twitter, and it was of me doing a 230 kilogram deadlift, and I had a caption saying, I keep hearing about how biological men have no strength advantage over women in 2019. So watch me destroy the British women's deadlift record without trying. P.S. I identified as a woman while lifting the weight. Don't be a bigot. So, man, I just posted this out there. I post a lot of tweets. I just put it out there like I put out anything else. I thought it was kind of funny. And little did I know that this was going to be a huge turning point in my life and my and my career, with millions and millions of people seeing that post and discovering me off of the back of it. And the amount of stuff that it led to has totally been insane. Really been insane. It was just such a huge catalyst for my life and my career. And I was then able to use that based on all the previous work I'd put in over the past 15 years. I was able to sort of use that moment to really get my name out there and get people to understand, okay, this Zuby guy isn't just like, it's not just one silly tweet. I've actually got something interesting to offer the world. I do a lot of cool stuff. I have a lot of interesting things to say. So I was able to sort of take that little flashpoint and snowball it into something a lot bigger. I mean, when I tweeted that, I mean, we're talking, this is 2019, right? And when I tweeted that, I had 18,000 followers on Twitter. As of today, I've got 365,000. Wow. So we're talking more than a 20x just on that single platform off of that. And it really changed the trajectory of everything.
You get a lot of hate, or like, I guess, like a lot of social justice warriors, people, you know, just coming at you like, how dare you?
Well, how dare I what? They didn't have anything. It was a checkmate. Right? It was a checkmate, right? Either they have to accept that I have the record, or they have to accept that I'm not a woman, and therefore it's not as simple as saying you're a woman to be a woman.
Right.
So it's one or the other. Right. So some people sort of wanted to get angry, I guess, but they couldn't even really say anything, right? They couldn't say anything. I kind of beat them at their own game. And 99% of the feedback was love, right? People loved it. People thought it was hilarious. So many people were glad that someone finally sort of exposed the ridiculousness of that whole notion, because it's something people are very touchy about. And so people are, for good reason, people are kind of silent on it, and people don't want to say anything, even if they think it's absurd. And I just kind of came out there and was like, okay, instead of using logic, let me just play along with the game, right? So, okay, if you're saying that a woman is anyone who says they're a woman, then okay, cool, right? Like fair game. Let's go. Let's go, right? Let's roll, right? Yeah, let's roll. Okay. Let me not argue. Let me just show you why this is a silly idea, and I'm not even gonna like trim my beard while I do it.
Right.
Yeah,
so, go ahead, Jaden.
And so one person that you got the attention of was the world's biggest podcaster, Joe Rogan. And there's an image of you and Joe Rogan, and there's a flamethrower. And I just wanted to ask you how it was like being on like the legendary podcast from Joe Rogan that like I'm sure like most of our audience listens to it all the time. Like it's just such a good outlet. And it was cool, man. It was a little bit surreal. So I got there and I was there for about 20 minutes before Joe showed up. He was running a little bit late. And when I met him, honestly, it kind of felt like meeting a friend. like I think, you know, he already followed me. He follows me on both Twitter and Instagram. And so, you know, we chatted before. And of course I've been watching and listening to his show for years. So it was a little bit surreal, but it was remarkably like normal at the same time. It was just like, oh, like, hey Joe, what's up, man? Like, you know, so it was cool. And then, you know, being in the room, and it was just weird because I've seen that this is in his old California studio, right? Yeah. So now he's in Texas, but it was just weird because I've seen that room so many times on my phone screen or on the larger screen. So I'm just like, oh, I'm in here. Like I'm in the seat. Oh, that's Jamie over there. All right. Like Joe's just there in front of me. So yeah. So it was a little bit trippy. And also I just got into LA. Like I was still jet lagged. I'd been in LA for not even 2 days. So I was still just kind of adjusting to everything. I was like, whoa, like this is all different. It was really hot. Everything looked like Grand Theft Auto. I was just like, whoa, like I'm in this new weird city. Oh, wow, this is Hollywood. Like, so the whole thing was very surreal and cool. And then of course, like the next couple of days, it was like, you know, I had Joe Rogan, and then like, it was like Dave Rubin Report. Then I like meet Ben Shapiro, Adam Carolla. Like I'm just every day, I'm like just meeting. Like, I'm like, oh, I know about you. Oh, I know you. Oh, hey Ben, what's up? Like, yeah, you're like living the dream for like,
so I was just like meeting all of these people in such a short space of time. You know, I'm there at the Daily Wire head offices. I'm like, oh, that's Michael Knowles. Hey, Michael, what's up, man? You know, and so like, I'm just meeting all these people. And so it was really, the whole trip was really, really dope. I ended up I was in the States for like 10 weeks. I went to 10 different cities. And I mean, the whole thing was trippy. In every state, in every city, I got to do some really cool stuff. I mean, I ended the trip, I ended in New York City, but before New York City, I was in DC. And I mean, I got invited to the White House twice. So you know, I got a whole tour of the White House. So I'm there like walking around the White House. Like I got invited to the Pentagon. I got a whole tour of the Pentagon. So I'm just like, man, like I'm just a rapper. I'm an independent rapper from England. Like how am I? Why am I in the White House? And not only was I in the White House and the Pentagon, but I got recognized in both buildings.
Right.
Both buildings. I had people be like, "Are you Zuby?" And I'm like, "Well, how do you know me?" And they're like, "Yeah, like I see your stuff on social media." I'm just like, man, this social media thing is crazy, you know? It's crazy. And I was coming out the White House, literally like after getting the tour, and on the second day, I'm literally walking out the White House, and there's a group of girls walking past, and they're like, "Hey, are you Zuby?" And I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is so weird, man. You know, with my music and stuff for many years, I mean, I've gotten used to occasionally being recognized out and about here in the UK, especially in certain cities. But to be in like places I'd never been to in my life, and people are there saying like, "Oh yeah, like I love your Twitter," or "I listen to your podcast," or "I like this song of yours," or whatever. I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. It's very humbling as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. Yeah, great stories, great stuff. I mean, from just the entire, you know, the breaking the record. I mean, it's hilarious, but at the same time, it shows the power of social media, and
it really does.
Just anything you put out there, and if people like it and people want to share it, it can take you places. Just one little tweet, one TikTok, and I think that's where, you know, that's why the internet is a playground for everybody now. You know, everyone wants to make content because they see the potential of what they could become through the use of the internet and, you know, content like that. So, I mean, going from there, I would like to ask, I mean, we talked about artists and we talked about, you know, your experience in Saudi Arabia. breaking that record, how your life changed and your experience on Joe Rogan. But, a culmination of Zuby's life, I want to ask, what advice would you, if you had one piece of advice you could give to people, we call it, the Gamechangers advice, right? Yeah. If you could give any game-changing advice to people, what would it be?
Yeah, I've been asked this question on a few podcasts, and I like to be pretty consistent with my answers. So my piece of advice is to work on, number one, recognize that you have infinite potential, right? You literally have every single person. We all have different talents and abilities, but within the scope of what we have and what we can do, recognize you have massive potential and you've barely scratched the surface of it. Mentally, physically, your skills, your relationships, your finances, your career, whatever it is you want to do, you've got massive potential. And then beyond that, it's your duty to work to fulfill that, right? By definition, your potential can never be totally achieved, but you want to die trying, right? You want to maximize that. And not only is that good for you, but it's good for everybody around you. It's good for your family. It's good for your friends. It's good for strangers who don't know you. It's good for your community. And ultimately, it's good for the world. If everyone adopted that attitude and that approach, the world would be an infinitely better place, right? Instead of people slacking around or wasting time, or even worse, trying to tear other people down all the time. If they were just like, oh, you know what? I've got value. I've got potential. Let me improve myself. And then by doing so, I have a greater capacity to help other people. My capacity to help other people now compared to what it was 5 years ago is several orders of magnitude larger, right? In such a short space of time. 5 years from now, it's going to be even bigger. 10 years from now, it's going to be even bigger than that. So for me, that's my mission. That's my duty. The better person I become, and the wider my reach becomes and the bigger my audience becomes, then the more people I can help to inspire with that message. So everyone in their own lane should strive to do the same thing. That's what I believe.
Amazing. And this goes to show, like, kind of like what you said, a poor person can't make other people rich, but a rich person can make others rich, right? So
Absolutely.
If you want to help other people, if you want to serve other people as part of your purpose, as part of your potential, then work on yourself first, be the best version of yourself. And that will automatically funnel into you helping other people and serving other people. Mm-hmm. Right.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Zuby. Thanks for your time. It was really a pleasure getting to know you. Like
That's
you
all
said,
good, guys.
You are a very, very humble person. Having spoken to you, what you've accomplished and the way you speak and the way you carry yourself. It was really a pleasure getting to know you. And yeah, it was, thanks for coming on. I'm sure, it's not Joe Rogan, but it's Gamechangers Experience. So
it's all good, man. It all counts.
Right. Thanks so much. And thank you guys for watching. If you do have any questions, feel free to, reach out to Zuby all over Instagram DMs. I'm sure he like you said, he engages with all his fans and followers. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And yeah, thank you guys for watching and see you guys on the next one. Bye.